Okay, we're back, and I've mixed up my two dark colors again, and I'm going to drop. Keep saying that's not dark enough, but that is not dark enough, so I've added a little more Payne's Gray to that. And when you go over these boards, you need to have a very light touch because it will lift the color underneath if you're not careful. Okay. Just making this a little bit darker because the sea is generally darker in the distance. So we will drop that in here. That part is quite dark, and that shows off our wave a little better. When you have a contrast, the more contrast you can have, the more drama your painting will have. Okay, I like that better. And then I'm going to come underneath with the greener mixture, again under here. And basically I just do this until I'm happy with the tone, the value, that it's dark enough. And what I'm going to do right here, because I really like that, is I'm just going to wet that so that these two will merge together. Because we know that's coming down here like this. You see, I'm just taking the brush and I'm doing the same motion that so we get the motion of the waves coming back up here like this. And making sure it's nice and dark. And here and now when we pull off this masking fluid, it's going to be quite stark, but that's okay. We'll soften that back. We'll probably do another layer over that to blend that all in. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry, and we will be back. Put a little dark in there. Okay, we will be back. Okay, we're back, and I have basically taken a number 5 Rosemary and Company brush and laid in the shadows on the crest of the wave. And now I'm taking a smaller brush, which is a number 2, and I'm going to put in some of these tiny little wavelets, I think they're called, just to give us some more definition in these. Whenever you take masking fluid off, you get quite a harsh line. So it's good to go back in and soften that, either by scrubbing it a little bit like this. You can do that to scrub it in so it's not such a hard line, or you can just paint in the paint over it, tint it a bit. You can also do a glaze over the top of it, just to pick up some color here and there, and anywhere it might be lighter, just not putting color there. This just gives us some interest to those marks that we've made. I could really have a little bit more yellow in it, actually. And I'm just going to continue working on this and softening these white marks so they're not quite so stark. And it's nice just to have the variations in color here. And we'll go back over this with probably with gouache, just to add a little more highlights where we need them. When you're doing this, it's important to stand back and look so you don't overdo this, because you really don't want to cover up every bit of white that's in there. Just kind of hit and miss, I think, is the best way to do it. Okay. So I'm happy with my darks. I think they're dark enough. I am going to go back and underneath these little wavelets and put a really dark shadow underneath some of them, just to give some more definition there. And you can just kind of squiggle that in like that. Just suggest that they're waves that have and put a little dark here and there inside the wave itself. And that gives it a nice variation in tone. And then you want to soften the edge of this so you don't get a hard line under there. That makes it more realistic. I'm probably going to darken this entire thing here again, but not with this little tiny brush. So let's see what we've got here. Then we'll have to stand back and look at this in a minute. It's also easy to overdo this, and if you get too much of a line like that, you can always just use your finger. And it's good to not do it everywhere. Okay. I think that's probably pretty good. Let's put that one back under there. Always remembering to soften these when you're done. I don't want to mess with that pretty splatter we have going here, so I'm not going to do too much on that right there. Try to drag that out a little bit, like that. All right, so now let me move my chair, and I think I'm gonna go right underneath the very edge of this, where this is cresting here. Just add a little more definition there. And I'm actually just mixing the two darks. Just to get that, make that edge of that pop a little bit. There. Then I'm going to take my little larger brush, go back in and darken all this again. Just to blend that all together. I think I'll just go right over this whole thing here, except maybe in between there. And then we'll push some of these white marks back a little bit. And I could be using a larger brush to do this, really. But if you use the belly of your brush like this, you can get a much larger stroke. But I am going to change to a larger brush, because we've worked our way back into this now. So we'll connect all of this. And this all is dark in here, pretty much all the way over. So I'm just ever so lightly, with the lightest touch, going over this whole thing. And remember, this comes down dark here, and then comes around here. Again. So we will bring that around one more time. Leaving that, I like those little white places there. And we'll come to maybe do this and get that off there like that. We'll wipe that back in a minute. Okay, I'm liking that. And let's go ahead and just darken this whole thing. So we just have a softness there. Okay, we'll get that coming in there like that. Then, so I don't have a hard edge right here, I'm just going to wet this and let that all blend together underneath that wave. And none of these are as white as those are, so we're just going to tint every bit of that, I think. We'll come up in there a little bit too. Just push that back a little bit, make that a little bit softer, because that is coming this way. We want to keep that movement so that it does look like a wave. And since we're in that dangerous place of easily overworking this, I'm going to stop for a minute and take a critical look at where we are and see what we need to do next. I know I need to darken this. I'm not happy with that, so we'll do that real fast. We'll just go over the whole thing because I don't like those marks there. So we'll just soften them a bit. That actually needs to be a little darker, so we'll add a little Payne's Gray to that. There we go, that's better. And I'm not sure, but I think this needs to come up in there some more. That's a little too regular, that look up in there. Okay, so let me stop and think we'll probably need to go over this. Let me think about that. Okay, I'm going to stop and dry it, and then we'll decide, and I will be right back.